Imagine walking into a five-star restaurant, chandeliers glowing above, the kind of place where the forks alone cost more than most people's monthly rent. Now picture a billionaire, sharp suit, diamond cufflinks, the kind of man who expects the world to bow when he enters. Tonight, he demanded nothing less than perfection, a private table, the best steak on the menu, and the kind of treatment reserved only for kings. But what happened next? Well, it turned the entire restaurant silent, and left that billionaire pale, shaken, and speechless. Stick with me till the very end, because this story carries a message that might just change the way you see life. And before we dive in, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe, because stories like this are what remind us what truly matters in this world. The man's name was Adrian Cole. He had made his fortune in tech, a genius who built empires from algorithms and ambition. But along the way, Adrian had grown cold. To him, money wasn't just a tool, it was armor. He believed wealth placed him above others, above waiters, drivers, even strangers on the street. So, when he strolled into the luxurious Golden Flame restaurant, he carried not only his wealth but also his arrogance. Staff whispered nervously, managers scrambled, and soon Adrian was seated at the finest table with a view of the city skyline. He tapped his gold watch impatiently as if every second wasted was an insult to his status. The waitress approached. She wasn't extraordinary by appearance, her uniform slightly worn, her shoes scuffed, but her eyes carried a calm strength. Her name was Clara. Adrian didn't even look at her as he demanded, "Bring me your best steak. Medium rare. And make sure it's done perfectly. I don't tolerate mistakes." Clara nodded quietly, jotting down his order. Most waitresses might have bent under the weight of his tone, but she didn't. Something in her silence unsettled him, though he brushed it off. As Adrian waited, sipping a glass of aged wine, he noticed Clara moving between tables, serving with patience, smiling gently at families, listening with care to elderly customers. It annoyed him that she wasn't rushing back to his table, that she didn't seem intimidated. For Adrian, being ignored was the ultimate insult. Finally, when she placed his plate before him, he frowned. "Do you know who I am?" he asked sharply. Clara looked at him for the first time, her eyes meeting his with steady grace. "Yes," she said softly. "You're my employee." The words hung in the air like shattered glass. The dining room went still. Adrian's fork froze halfway to his mouth. "Excuse me," he demanded, his voice quivering. Clara repeated, "You work for me." He laughed nervously, glancing around at other diners, waiting for someone to explain this absurd statement. But Clara continued, her voice calm yet piercing. "You built your billions on a company that laid off thousands last year. My father was one of them. After 30 years of loyalty, you signed a paper, and he was left with nothing. He died months later, heartbroken, defeated. I became the provider for my family. So, yes, in my eyes, you're not the man above me. You're the man who took from us. And tonight, you serve me." The billionaire's face drained of color. His hands trembled as the weight of her words settled in. For the first time in years, he felt powerless. The restaurant staff and customers stared in silence, some with sympathy for Clara, others in shock at her boldness. Adrian wanted to protest, to argue, but no words came. In that moment, all the wealth in the world couldn't shield him from truth. He pushed the plate away, appetite gone. Why are you still here, serving people like me?" he asked, his voice softer, almost broken. Clara smiled faintly, though her eyes glistened. "Because unlike you, I don't measure worth in money. I measure it in love. Every tip I earn feeds my younger brother, keeps my mother's medicine stocked, pays for my sister's college books. You may think serving tables is beneath you, but for me, it's dignity. It's survival. And unlike wealth, dignity cannot be taken unless you surrender it." The words pierced deeper than any insult could. For the first time in decades, Adrian felt something shift, guilt, shame, but also awakening. The waitress who should have been invisible to him had become his mirror, showing him the emptiness of his empire. That night, Adrian didn't finish his steak. He left a tip, not in bills but in an envelope he pulled from his coat pocket, a check worth enough to cover Clara's family's debts and give them a new beginning. Clara looked at the paper, then at him, her eyes narrowing. Money won't bring back my father. But if this is your way of making amends, I'll accept it, not for me, but for the family he left behind. Adrian nodded silently and walked out. For days after, he couldn't shake her words. He looked around his penthouse, surrounded by marble and glass, and felt emptier than ever. He realized he had mistaken power for respect, wealth for love. And it took the courage of a waitress to teach him the truth. Weeks later, Adrian quietly returned to the restaurant. This time, he asked for Clara's section, but not to demand. Instead, he sat humbly, waiting patiently. When she approached, he stood up. "I've started a foundation in your father's name," he said, his voice trembling. "It will help employees who lose their jobs, give them dignity, and ensure their families don't suffer as yours did. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want to change." Clara studied him, her expression unreadable. Finally, she nodded. "Change isn't about what you say. It's about what you do. Let's see if you mean it." And for the first time in his life, Adrian felt like someone had spoken to him not as a billionaire, but as a man. That night, he walked away lighter, carrying not arrogance, but hope.